Sahavyam Karavai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman protect us. May He guide us and give us strength and right understanding. May love and harmony be with us all. Om peace, peace, peace. And good evening. So we're continuing to read from the complete works of Swami Ramakrishnananda, and we're reading through the tales of the various avatars. So as last we left the cosmic corners, we discovered that the town bully, Hiranyaksha, wanted to pick a fight. You know the type, the kind in the playground that goes and tries to pick a fight with everybody. Nobody would want to fight him because they all knew he was strong. So he finally decided to taunt Lord Vishnu by hiding the entire world under the waters. And of course, that did cause Vishnu to have to be incarnated as the boar avatar so that he could defeat this town bully and raise the earth back up above the waters. So the bull was defeated, the town bully was defeated by the town boar, I guess. So this is now, as the story continues, in this next incarnation, of course, the older brother, Hiranyakashipu, has now been enraged. And so we are going to have to invoke another avatar to defeat yet another bully. So, the Narasimha avatar. When Hiranyaksha was killed by Vishnu, the elder brother Hiranyakashipu was so enraged that he began to make tapas, various austerities, so that he might fight Vishnu and revenge the death of his younger brother. He performed so much penance for years and years together that Brahma had to come down to him and say, "I am very much pleased with you. Tell me what you want. Ask me a boon." Then Hiranyakashipu replied, "I want to be immortal." But Brahma said, "Take some other boon. It is contrary to the laws of the universe that any created being can be immortal. Ask for something else." So Hiranyakashipu then said, "Grant, Lord, that I shall not die in the night, and I shall not die in the day, that no living being created by thee will have the power to kill me. I shall die by no weapon whatever. I shall die neither inside nor outside of a house. I shall die neither on the surface of the earth nor above it. I shall not die either by living or lifeless beings. Make me as powerful and as great and unequal as thyself. Let me have all the powers of a perfected yogi." Brahma answered, "All right, so let it be." Brahma is always way too agreeing to these things. He gets the whole cosmos in trouble. Anyway, Hiranyakashipu, after that, thought that he had made himself immortal because he had named all the possible conditions under which a person might die. He was therefore very happy with his boon, and coming back to his palace, he began to harass the whole universe, and at last he conquered it. Now, once during his penance, though, his army had been routed by the gods in his absence, and his wife was captured by them. She was at that time pregnant, but they caught hold of her hair and were dragging her to heaven when Narada chanced to pass by them. Seeing this, he said, "Do not maltreat this innocent lady. A great devotee is soon to be born of her. Let me take her away to my ashrama and take care of her." She was a very pious lady, and Narada took her to his ashram in the forest. Now, she often used to ask Narada about the duties of a woman, and as she served him with great devotion, Narada was very glad to answer her questions. So much so that he would talk on for hours and hours together until sometimes the poor lady, growing weary in body, would fall asleep. But although she would be asleep, the unborn child in her womb did not sleep, and it listened attentively to all of Narada that Narada was saying. You know, there's actually evidence that the fetus does hear things in the womb, and it's good to play music and say sweet words and so forth. And if there's a lot of arguing and bickering in the family, that affects the unborn child. So you have to be careful what the unborn child hears. And I think the Hindus have outdone the Athenians in the Trojan horse story. They're planting an insider here. All right, so now Hiranyakashipu, coming back successfully from his tapas, heard that his wife was safe in Narada's ashrama, and he was very happy. So he came and took her home, thanking Narada for his kindness. In course of time, a child was born to her, and he was called Prahlada. Hiranyakashipu, after conquering the whole universe, tried in every way to tease and anger Vishnu in order to provoke the Lord to fight with him. Now, you'd think he would have learned his lesson from his younger brother, but he didn't. He would torment all those who were devoted to Vishnu, especially the Brahmanans and even the cows, for both of these were especially loved by Lord Vishnu. Now, when Prahlada was 5 years old, he was sent to the teacher's house to study, and the teacher was particularly enjoined never to let his pupil hear the name of Vishnu. But Prahlada was a very remarkable boy, for when he was in his mother's womb, he had heard all the stories told by Narada, who, as a matter of fact, did not care to relate them so much as for the mother as for the unborn child. And it was really he who he was teaching. Now, when the guru began to teach Prahlada the alphabet, at the repetition of the first letter Ka, he began to weep because it was the initial letter of Krishna's name. The guru, seeing this, asked, "What is the matter with you, my child?" Then Prahlada said, "I weep because this is the first letter that reminds me, of my master's name." "And who is your master?" said the teacher. "Krishna, the Lord," the boy replied. The guru reproved him, saying, "You foolish boy, do you not know that he is the enemy of your family? Never take his name. Remember that you have no master but your father, who is the ruler of all the worlds." When, however, the guru went about the other tasks, Prahlada used to gather all the boys together and talk to them of the Lord and teach them to sing the name of God, and then they used to dance and spend all their time in thus worshiping the Supreme Lord. Now, the incarnation called Krishna is a few incarnations down the road here, but somehow maybe the cosmos has had several cycles already, and so we've already had a Krishna. One day, Hiranyakashipu wanted to see how his son was progressing, so he called the boy to him and asked, "Well, my son, what have you learned?" And Prahlada said, "I have learned, Father, that there is only one thing in life to do, that is to glorify the name of Lord Vishnu." At once Hiranyakashipu grew very angry and sent for the teacher and asked, "What have you been teaching my child?" "It is not my fault," the guru replied. "We have done our best. But he insists on repeating the name of our enemy and on teaching the other boys to do the same." Prahlada said, "Yes, Father, that is true. It is not his fault. I have done those acts myself by disobeying him." Though Hiranyakashipu was very angry, yet as a father he did not wish to hurt his son. So he merely rebuked him, saying, "I will forgive you this time. Go back with your guru and do not do those things again. Remember, I am the only Lord of the universe." After a time, he again asked Prahlada to come to him and put the same question. The boy made the same answer. This so exasperated Hiranyakashipu that he forgot himself to be his father, and he sprang upon him with his drawn sword, with which he dealt a terrible blow upon him. but the mighty sword got broken to pieces, even at the touch of the soft body of his son. Thus baffled in his attempt to kill him, the king ordered Prahlada to be trampled down by elephants. But the brutal act also proved to be fruitless, for although many elephants were made to trample over his prostrate body, he could not be killed. Then he was given the most terrible poison to drink, but it proved to be nectar to him. He was then thrown down from a high precipice on a cracky beach, but that proved a flower bed to him. Then he was thrown inside a big cauldron full of boiling oil, and that heartless operation also proved to be a soothing bath to him. When in this way Hiranyakashipu found that nothing would kill his child, he got more exasperated and questioned him threateningly. "Where is thy God? I have punished thee so much. Hast thou not still changed thy opinion? Where is thy God?" Prahlada replied, "Well, my God is everywhere." "You foolish lad, you talk pure trash and nonsense. I do not see your God as you assert. Here is a pillar. Is it not one?" "Oh, yes, Father, it is a pillar, but in there is God also." "Then show me your God." And he struck the pillar with a powerful blow. It fell, and out of it came a man-lion, half man and half lion, so terrible in form that all the followers of Hiranyakashipu fell down senseless at the very sight of him. But to Prahlada, he did not appear terrible, because he saw in him his loving God and Father. Now Hiranyakashipu was so dauntless and intrepid that he did not at all get frightened at the sight of the terrible man-lion. Of course, he thought he was immortal. Unsheathing his sword, and at once sprang upon him, and a terrible fight ensued between them. It raged for some time furiously, till the Lord had the better of him. He dealt such a terrible blow at Hiranyakashipu that he fell down senseless. He then, lifting him up, placed him upon his thighs, and tore him to pieces with his long nails, and roared so loudly after destroying him that the whole universe shook with fear. Even the gods trembled to approach him. But Prahlada, the young little boy, was peaceful and calm. All the while, when the fight was going on, he was glorifying the Lord, and thus remained wrapped in the bliss of divine communion. So, of course, he had circumvented all of the boons that Brahma had given Hiranyakashipu so that he could be killed. When Hiranyakashipu was killed, none of the gods dared to approach the terrible man-lion form of the Lord. Then Brahma asked Prahlada to go near and pacify him. The pure and spotless boy devotee at once obeyed, and, as an innocent and sweet child, approached his most loving father with great joy. So Prahlada went near the Lord, and at the sight of his sweet devotee, all the anger left the Lord, and his heart glowed with the infinite love of a mother. He then, taking the boy up in his arms, kissed him fondly. Prahlada enjoyed the embrace immensely. Then all the gods came forward, and each and every one of them began to glorify him with deep devotion. Then the face of the Lord assumed a benign form and looked smiling around him, shedding peace and bliss everywhere. So we see that however a man may try to escape death by means of his intelligence, there is always some flaw which makes it possible for death to seize him. Hiranyakashipu was very wise, and how could one believe it possible for him to meet death when he read all the conditions under which Brahma said that he should not die? But nothing is impossible for God, who is the creator, even of the creator. The intelligence of a created being will always be infinitesimal compared to the intelligence of God. Finite intelligence will always commit blunders, while infinite intelligence never will. Hiranyakashipu committed the blunder of thinking that he, as an embodied being, was infinite. He always compared himself with those who were inferior to him, and thus increased his vanity. So it was always, so it must always be, unless we compare ourselves with those who are our superiors. When Hiranyakashipu was killed, Vishnu asked Prahlada what he wanted. Did he ask for the throne of his father? Well, no. He demanded but one boon from the Lord, that he might always have true devotion for his divine feet. Then Vishnu said, I wish you to sit on the throne and rule over your own people. Prahlada obeyed and ruled very wisely. Although a Daitya by birth, he was really a god by nature, and so long as he reigned, there was no quarrel between gods and demons. Everyone was happy under his impartial rulership. Now, this history of Hiranyakashipu teaches a great lesson to us. Hiranyakashipu represents the highest development of egotism. The first personal pronoun I was developed in him as far as it can be developed. He was so very powerful that he brought the whole universe under his control. But his egotism blinded him in regard to the one fact that it was finite and perishable, and an ego that is finite compared to the ego of the Lord must be infinitesimally insignificant, just as a firefly is absolutely lusterless before the noonday sun. This truth Hiranyakashipu could not make out because he was blinded by egotism. He was dazzled by his own strength. If we examine the ego, however, we shall see that this ego is one with the body. If I ask you who you are, you will say that I am Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, perhaps a Brahmana, a student, or so on and so forth. And if I ask you how much you measure, you will say that you are 3.5 cubits in length. So we see that we always identify this ego with the body. Ego and body exist in time, so both ego and body are limited in time. Hiranyakashipu was born out of a body, and so he had to die. Being limited in time, he was limited in space also, because he did not occupy the whole of space. Thus, being finite, he could not be immortal and was bound to die. Of course, everything in Maya is in time and space, but we want to transcend time and space and realize our true nature, which is beyond both. And it is the ego that is the biggest thing in the way of our realizing that. And Hiranyakashipu is like an egomaniac, you could say, or a megalomaniac. So it just emphasizes that idea. By showing it in the extreme, we get the point across. If we're just some person that had the normal amount of ego, we wouldn't be able to illustrate how the ego is such a barrier. So in the story, we emphasize this by making the ego this extremely out of proportion ego. And so then, of course, we realize that also that it's pure devotion that one should always wish for. So again, Prahlada is the perfect devotee who doesn't want anything from the Lord except for devotion to the Lord. Most of us wish for this thing or that thing. We want better health, or we want a better spouse, or we want a better job, or we want more money, or we want this, that, or the other thing. But the thing that we're really supposed to want, the only thing that we're really supposed to desire, is devotion to God. God's body is infinite and God's life is eternal. While man's body, however, is big, it may be compared to God's body. No matter how big it may be, compared to God's body, it is zero. There again, it's typical of the bully. The playground bully is usually somebody that's bigger and stronger and heavier than everybody else, and delights in beating all the other people up. So the body and life of a human being, however big or long they may be, must seem infinitesimal when compared to the infinite body and eternal life of God. What sheer foolishness it is, therefore, on the part of a human being to try to wage war against God. It is like a little insect trying to fight an elephant. The latter is perhaps excusable, but when a finite creature being wants to fight the Lord of the whole universe, it is the height of madness. In the same way, a man may be cherishing the foolish idea that he can escape death, while death is all the time very near him. Of course, there are many other stories where somebody tries to escape death and all they do is end up going exactly where death is. And there are other stories also that illustrate this idea of teaching the child in the womb or at a very young age, of repeating holy ideas into their head so that they become a spiritual person. Then what is the duty of every man? The duty of every man is to worship God, and that duty we can learn not from Hiranyakashipu, but from his son, Prahlada. How fragile he was, yet he was thrown into boiling oil. He was dashed down from a high precipice. He was trampled under the feet of an elephant. But God knew how to protect him, because Prahlada looked up to God as his real father and his real mother. A little baby, when it is frightened, runs to its mother's lap, and there it feels safe. Why? Because to the baby, the mother seems all-powerful, and therefore it has all faith in her. If an earthly mother were with her limited love can create such love and faith in the heart of the baby, how much love and faith will the eternal mother awaken in her infinite love? This love Prahlada was able to realize, and so he was never afraid. He knew the infinite love always protected him. So that's a word to all the poor kids that are pecked on at school or in other situations, or if you have a boss at work that likes to pick on you because they feel they're powerful and they can lord over you. So just put yourself at the feet of the Lord, put yourself in the hands of the Divine Mother, and allow them to protect you. He who is life itself, how can anyone take life away from him? And Prahlada knew that his was the life of the Lord, so he knew that no one could take it away. Only he could take away life who has given it. The earthly father is foolish enough to think that he has given life to his baby, but it is really God from whom all life comes. Are you able to guide the internal organs of your body by yourself, for instance? Do you know or feel what happens all the time in the different organs? How digestion goes on, or how the blood is made to circulate, or what makes them do so? You know nothing about it. All your skill lies in cooking and swallowing. Has any scientist ever been able to manufacture a single drop of blood? Even inside the body, can you consciously make one corpuscle? No, you cannot. Then how can you say that you have possession of your body? It is someone else who does all this, and the body really belongs to him. Man only eats, man only drinks, and this eating and drinking is merely a coolie's business. When you want to erect a big building, you hire a number of coolies to bring bricks, mortar, and water, but it is the architect who tells what is wanted to be done. So in this body, we are doing the work of the coolies, and there is an architect inside who directs everything that is wanted therein. When he wants something solid to be put in, he makes it known by giving a call in the form of hunger, and we run to have some cooked food, or so on. In the same way, a call is sent for water in the form of thirst, and we rush here and there to find water and drink it. So this one who gives the orders, who builds and preserves the house, the body is really his. He is the real Father. We find, therefore, that it is not our earthly father and earthly mother who have brought this body into existence and sustained it, but it is God who has done all this. He has given life to this body, and so it, as well as everything else in the universe, belongs to him. So that's a good reminder, and something that we're always trying to remember is that God is the doer. We're not the doer. We're just the instrument through which God is doing. But you have to be careful. You don't want to ascribe all the bad things you do to God and all the good things to yourself, like the person in Sri Ramakrishna's parable who claimed all the lovely things that had happened in the garden, but the killing of the cow was something that Indra had done. So everything has to be thought of as being done by God. This is the highest knowledge. This knowledge Prahlada had, and so he was fearless, and he could not be killed. This knowledge Prahlada's father did not have, and therefore he had a mortal dread of death, and vain were his attempts to escape from it. So must it be always, when we forget that God is our real Father and real Mother. And of course, the real immortality is to unite our true self with Brahman. And that's where the immortality comes. It's not going to the plastic surgeon or taking special potions or pills, or doing all sorts of exercises. Now, all those things are good. You can think of the body as a temporary temple, and you want to take care of the temple. So that's good to that extent, but you have to remember that the body is not the thing that's going to be immortal. It's the spirit that is already immortal, and you want to try to increase your identification with that immortal spirit. And so no matter what happens to the physical body, the immortal spark of life, the Atman inside, is always immortal, no matter what happens to the physical body. All right, so the next avatar is the Vamana avatar. The duty of every great monarch is to show his power, otherwise the neighboring kings will swallow him up. So Prahlada had to go to subdue all the neighboring princes and potentates, until, like his father, he had finally conquered the three worlds. Prahlada was noted for his impartiality. He had a son called Virochana, and once a quarrel arose between him and a poor Brahmin boy. Virochana said that those who were physically strong are the best men. Sounds like another bully, isn't it? For when a man is weak, everyone can trample on him. Hence, the Kshatriya is far superior to the Brahmin. The Brahmin, however, replied, "No, it cannot be so, for what is this physical strength? Man's real strength lies in the realization of his infinite nature. Physical strength is temporary and may be destroyed at any moment." Virochana said, "See, you are a poor boy. You have to come to my father to beg food while I am the son of a king. Look how finely I am dressed. Whenever I go, hundreds of soldiers follow me. I never walk. I have the most beautiful horses to ride on. Just see how great is my condition. Do you think that it is less than yours?" The Brahmin said, "Come, let us go and ask your father." So they went and asked Prahlada, "Which is greater, the condition of the Kshatriya or that of the Brahmin?" Then Prahlada said, "You have committed a great blunder, my son, in insulting this boy. You must beg his pardon. The Brahman is a knower of his infinite nature. Therefore, he is the real ruler, and we are only his servants. He does not care for chariots and all such luxuries, because he knows the hollowness of these. You are a mustached baby." That's an interesting. "You cannot walk. You are proud of your fine clothes. You always wish to be flattered, while this Brahman is calm and quiet, whether people insult or praise him. The true Brahman represents the highest ideal, and hence we must all honor him. Therefore, prostrate before him and ask his pardon for your blunder." And that, of course, is a great secret, to not care about the praise or blame of other people, but be calm in the wisdom of your true nature. And so whether your physical form is weak or fat or old or decrepit, it doesn't matter. The physical form has no bearing on your true nature. The true nature is one with Brahman, and that's the important thing to remember. And so don't care what other people say about your physical form or your mental aptitudes. Those are all secondary qualities. So we see that Prahlada was really a great soul. He was not only very impartial, but he also knew how to respect the rights of others. Although he was actually the ruler of the whole universe, he never disturbed Indra. He lived in peace with both gods and men. Everything flourished in his kingdom, and peace and happiness reigned everywhere. Then Prahlada passed away, and Virochana ascended the throne. He ruled something in the same manner as his father, but he was not a very great warrior, and so gradually lost control over the gods. He reigned a number of years and died, leaving behind him a son named Bali. He was as strong as his grandfather. While Virochana ruled, the gods had gradually regained their independence, but Bali wanted to reconquer them and make them again his vassals. He once more gained ascendancy over the three worlds and even drove Indra out of the heavens. Bali thought, "Indra has no right to rule heaven. Since my grandfather had it, it is the best place. Why should we not go there and live? It really belongs to us." So he drove all the gods out of heaven and seated himself on Indra's throne. Again, the ruler of a country who is never satisfied with what they've got, and they want something else. They want to add something else and add something else. It's always greener on the other side. So there's some wisdom there that we should be looking at. Thus he became the most powerful being in the three worlds, and he thought that no one could be higher than he. So he ordered that all sacrifices should be made to him. Then he himself wanted to perform a great sacrifice, and when it was announced, Brahmins began to flock from all directions. Indra, seeing this, appealed to the Supreme Lord Vishnu to give him back his kingdom. Now, Aditi had been making penance for many years to get God as son, and Vishnu at last said that he would come to her. So he was born as a child, but as a dwarf, very beautiful to look at, but very small. In the meantime, Bali was preparing for his sacrifice. He said, "Everything belongs to me, so I will give to everyone whatever he may ask." Thousands and thousands of people, therefore, were flocking to his capital, and everyone came away satisfied with what he had received. Now, this little dwarf, whose name was Upendra, which means the younger brother of Indra, had just been invested with his holy thread. And when he saw that thousands and thousands were flocking to Bali, he said that he too wanted to go and get something for his father, something for his mother, and something for himself. He asked some Brahmins to take him, but no one was willing because they thought he was such a little boy that he could not walk fast. Therefore they refused. But he followed just the same. Then they found that although he was behind, yet they always saw him before them, and they thought, this little boy must be very remarkable. When they reached Bali's court, he went in with the rest, and when Bali and his wife saw him, he was so sweet to look at, with such a charming manner, that they began to love him. Bali at once called him and asked, what can I do for you? Ask anything you like. And the little dwarf replied, I do not want very much, only as much land as I can cover with 3 footsteps. Then Bali said, this is such a foolish little boy. I can give him a whole empire. He asks for only this little bit of land. Has he no guardian with him to ask some bigger thing? But the dwarf insisted, no, I will not take any more. So Bali said, well, I will give it to you. Now Bali's guru, Sukracharya, looking at Upendra, thought, this infinitely charming being cannot be a created mortal. So he went into meditation and found that he was God himself. Then he came to Bali and warned him, saying, be careful, this is no ordinary person. He will strip you of your whole kingdom. Do not offer to give him anything. But Bali answered, what can I do? I have promised, and I must keep my word. Still, Sukracharya insisted, why do you promise? Am I not your guru? Why do you not obey me? Yes, Master Bali replied, you are my guru, and from you have I learned always to keep my promise. In those days it was customary when anything was given to pour water and say, I give this to you, as if the water represented the thing given. And when the water was poured, there the gift was definitely made and the ceremony was finished. That Sukracharya had a great love for his disciple, and he could not bear to have him ruin himself. So he thought, if I can only keep him from pouring water, then the gift will not be binding. Assuming a minute form, he entered the spout of the pitcher, and when Bali tried to pour the water, nothing came. Perhaps there is something there, Upendra said, and he took a stick and thrust it into the spout. He put out one of Sukracharya's eyes. Feeling the pain, Sukracharya had to come out. Then he said to Bali, you have made me lose my eye. Now you will lose everything. Wait and see. At once the water flowed, and Bali said, I give you 3 footspans of land. And at that moment the little dwarf, who was the smallest of the smallest, became the largest of the largest. With 1 foot he cohered the netherworld, with the other this world, and then there was nothing left to cover with the 3rd footspan. But Bali was overwhelmed. But his wife said, you are the luckiest of men. Give your head. So Bali bowed his head. Upendra placed his foot on it, and he became the property of the Lord. This is the idea that every man tries to realize, that he is the property of God. You are now thinking that you are the property of your wife, or of your children, of your parents. Yet when you repeat a certain Sanskrit phrase which means, thou art my mother, thou art my father, you recognize that God is your real father and your real mother. Now, I have been telling you that the real means eternal. Therefore, God is your eternal father and your eternal mother, so that instead of belonging to these earthly relations, you actually belong to God. He is your eternal companion and your eternal relation. Bali realized this, the highest wisdom which everyone is trying to realize. Even Indra had not this realization, for he still had a desire to rule, which meant he still possessed egotism, while Bali lost all egotism and surrendered himself wholly to the Lord. So this is an example where the conquered person actually becomes a benefactor of being conquered. It was a good thing that he was conquered, that he really attained everything by being conquered. And so if we resign ourselves completely to the Lord, then we actually gain everything. What can we learn from this? You see, Bali was not at all introspective. People who desire many things in the outside world can never be introspective. So, like an ordinary man, Bali was looking upon this dwarf as an ordinary man, but not so Sukracharya. He had the habit of going within himself, so he was able to perceive that although this dwarf was the smallest of the smallest, he was also the largest of the largest. God's ways are always mysterious. See how he took away Bali's kingdom without shredding a drop of blood? But Bali was not an ordinary king. He was absolutely truthful. He could easily have refused to fulfill his word to the dwarf, but he had promised, so he would not draw back. So this, of course, Sri Ramakrishna always emphasized truthfulness as the austerity of the age. And so this is a good illustration of that principle of how important truthfulness is. The truthfulness overcame Bali's ego and completely conquered it. He could not easily have refused to fulfill the word of the dwarf, but he had promised, so he would not draw back. By his truthfulness, however, he gained infinitely more than he lost, for he gained the boon of living in the eternal companionship of God. By losing his temporal wealth, he got eternal wealth. Was he really then a loser? By losing the trash of this outside creation, he got the real wealth, a wealth that is perennial, whose possession will bring all happiness. Do you know the actual meaning of the word wealth? It means wheel, and wheel means happiness. And what can bring greater happiness than this? To have the Lord of the whole universe as an eternal companion. Indra got back creation, but Bali got the Creator. Thus we learn one grand lesson from this. We must stick to truth. Through his truthfulness, Bali earned this great blessing, the eternal companionship of God. Our master, Sri Ramakrishna, used to teach us that there was no greater austerity than this, to practice truth. And if we but practice truth, we also shall get the Lord of the whole universe as our eternal companion. And of course, the book of the collections of Swami Brahmananda, another disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, is called The Eternal Companion. And the idea is, again, to make the Lord your eternal companion, to become one with the Lord in the Advaitic sense. So these stories illustrate these great spiritual principles of how the ego is our greatest obstacle and truthfulness will be our greatest asset, and that the microcosm is the macrocosm. So even though we're looking for something that seems like a small spark inside of the heart center, that spark is actually the infinite Brahman that fills the entire universe. So the microcosm and the macrocosm are really the same, that just because something seems small, if it represents the spirit, it's actually it's infinite. And so your consciousness, again, going from this ordinary consciousness to the infinite consciousness of your oneness with Satchidananda. So just because we become learned, we go to school and we study scriptures and we become good at all sorts of things in the world, that consciousness, if it helps us to realize God, then that's a good thing on the path, but it's still rather infinitesimally small compared to the infinite consciousness which is gained by realizing our true self. All right, we covered 2 whole yugas here, practically, with 2 avatars today. And so stay tuned next week for yet another episode in the Cosmic Corner here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Filled with Brahman are the things we see. Filled with Brahman are the things we see not. From out of Brahman floweth all that is. From Brahman all, yet is it still the same. Om peace, peace, peace. And as the story said, Brahman is even in the pillar, for the Narasimha sprung out of the pillar. So Brahman permeates all things, both the living and the non-living. All right. Good night.